Okay, hello. Hope the audio's good. Um, Sorry, kind of early. Happy to see everybody in the chat. Working with new kind of setup. Um, Hello, Lindica 2020. She said it. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Casey Aiken, The Alchemist, Northwest God, or NW. I'm not sure, but something's going on. NW God. Uh, Diane Archuleta. Not sure if it's Hispanic. Mish Gleason. T. Witten. Good to see you. Teresa again. VA Rocks Hard. Thomas. Vanin. Ramalho. Bones McCoy. Linda Perez. We don't seem to have claws. Maybe Thomas. To start the weirdness, maybe the question is whether we can or did or what kind of humanoid forms can or do have claws. Maybe we'll hold off on the weird ones for a bit. Good day. Yes, indeed. There's definitely stuff going on. I'm not really going to put a bunch of words to it or definitive measures in terms of what's happening or what's going to happen. Things are definitely accelerating. That happens anyway. We're getting smarter. As we develop more knowledge, the people who didn't want to know certain things are forced to know certain things. It's kind of like everybody has to pick up and pull the slack. And as a result, it seemingly gets more difficult and more stressful and kind of dismal. It's kind of like having more earthquake sensors, and that you can see earthquakes everywhere now, when in reality, it's the same number, we just have more sensors. I look kind of inflamed. I'm overeating. This is a fat version. This is Og Fat. I should change the name. Alright, there you go. I changed the name just a little bit. Sorry, I distracted myself. My fatness. Yeah, I don't. We'll see. Something's happening. We'll see where it goes. That's not really the best way to put it. Is that gonna blow up and ignite the other? I don't know. We'll find out, and that's not good. But we will find out anyway. Could you recommend how we can help others for this ascension process, others and ourselves, and are we really in 5D? Lindica 2020. So one thing I was just thinking of is it's as if we're performing a 5D barrel roll. Excuse me. It's as if we're let me see if I can I don't know, maybe factor that in a kind of metaphor, your own understanding. But it's as if we're going one way in the timelines, then the other way again, and then back to where we were. And it's literally like a 5D barrel roll, in the sense that what we're moving through is as if our 4D timeline itself is swimming through higher potential timeline space, and you would call that space that the 4D thing is in 5D space. And so it's as if we're performing a 5D maneuver in a way. But and so because we're seemingly changing on these levels, and we're aware of things that we either you would have to get some other way in the past, and now seemingly everyone is aware of these things. You can't deny it, you can't look away, or everyone's gotten into the not act but kind of production of presenting this truth to the people, to anyone who doesn't know. And so in that sense, it's as if we're now operating in scales that are a little bit different than just kind of going along through previous years' timelines, and so on. It's as if we're all operating now, whether you're a passenger in the vehicle that's moving through 5D space and just looking out and going, oh, wow, there it is. That's not normal. That's not normal time, scales of change. Or you're actively preparing and paying attention and realizing we're gonna have to bank that way, then come hard that way in order to get back over there, and you're kind of playing a part in the process. It seems because these dynamics are in play in our society in a much more sentient, controlled, whether it's controlled or not, it's more in public view, that you could say we're in 5D space. That's like my take on it. And then people are getting very powerful dreams. The dreams are connecting between, you could say, realities or long distances of time. We're replaying cycles that developed these changes long ago that are coming back around. And in the way they're connecting now, it's not just one event to another in a relationship. It's like this web of connection of events throughout time where we're trying to get to this point that we may have been here before. And so that's not a linear course, just like it normally is. It's like we're doing cycles upon cycles, and now this cycle that we might complete could outdo all the other cycles, and so we're interacting in new space instead of just doing the same thing over again, but to millions of years of cycles. Because we've built up so much change and a routine and potential for learning about ourselves in this place, that now it has to go somewhere, and it has to drag, but not really drag, but just incorporate everything that we've been through into these kind of peak experiences. And it seems we couldn't get that before. And as well, going back to the first thing I said, it seems we needed certain stressors, we needed certain abilities to come out, we needed certain reminders to prove what was necessary, to prove what was possible. And again, for those who don't want to know, that's painful, but for those who are looking, it's like a reprieve or an ascension. And again, the ascension in my mind is when your brain waves literally ascend to the point where now somebody's like, hey, you, and they kick your shins emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and the bottom of your shoe, your soul, feels it. The gum on your soul feels it, and then it doesn't affect you anymore because you're all the way up there. It can't drag you down. That's what it means to me. It could then say we all do it, or everybody in a circle does it and closes off the electromagnetic radiation from the rest of the universe, and we, I don't know, transform ourselves, unlock some, that maybe there's something to do with that. There are machines, there's capabilities, there's ancient processes, and so on. But for us, and for all intents and purposes, it's literally just, it could be here, and we go up here, and then something tries to spit on you, energetically, and it can't even reach your vision. That's pretty much what it means. And feeling that is good. Just it's not a malevolence or malice. It's not like you use that invincibility and go step on everybody's, like, all the demons' faces and stuff. It's just, you become an obstacle for them to have to then learn in their environment to scale up, if you will. Hello, Jake Parsons. Oh, great. Now the chat reloaded. Son of a darn. Yeah, and so it's a weird thing, Thomas, as far as basically we have to learn about life here, and how things work. The more energy your brain requires, the more intelligence you attain, if you will, to lack of better words, the more energy your brain will require. After a certain point, you will require the eating of meat in order to nourish your brain if you choose to continue to increase your intelligence. Past a certain point, beyond the range limitations in the environment for the local species, one becomes vampiric. Because that means then they're so powerful they can literally just go and melt somebody down, whether they use a process, injections, whatever it is, and then that's just going to give them what they need for the day because of the amount of energy they're using. That's not normal for the species as it is locally, and so it moves into a different range of life. The more and more energy that we use, the greater that process becomes. In this balanced land, we have literally a Goldilocks zone, which is more like God's golden soul radius, and within that, we don't have to become vampiric. You can just continue to chug along at the level you're at. Upgrades are required, especially because of what certain people did. And even maybe that's how it always was, or maybe those things requiring the upgrades now were because without that we would have, it would have taken 10 million years to get to this level of intellect where we're capable of choosing. Animals can't choose. If they get into a fight, they're either fighting or running. They can't choose and say, well, let me think about this. So we have that capability. It can go even farther of how do I want to grow? What dimension do I want my soul to grow into? And a lot of people have been practicing that and learning about that, and then that's all been hidden in certain ways and so on. And so we have all this hidden knowledge and all these challenging thought forms that require intellect, and then a kind of divergent or a divergence of really the species in a way through the subcultures in society of those who are going to gather greater intellect, go past the point, become vampiric, or enough intellect where you're on like the borderline for this society, or completely the opposite, and choose to never, or to try and minimize one's vampiric qualities altogether, maybe in a hopes of reducing their kind of entanglement with the physical as a philosophical concept in their own ontological self-awareness or sense of self-awareness, self-perception, and maybe in some underlying sense a 5D sliding scale, like the little things children play with at the doctor's office when you're in the waiting office, like a roller coaster, where maybe somehow you trigger something else and it slides you to the next dimension, and you go right back to a higher spiritual locale or greater energy, but no vampirism, because you have to be able to sustain that within yourself, and that path leads to that. I don't know. Maybe the other path we turn into like vampire monkeys or something if we keep eating meat. I don't know, but it seems to be a lot of that. Basically, we're looking at it like we don't know exactly how to manage, and the results would be basically two different species, and everybody's kind of got different opinions and so on. But the basic breakdown seems to be that it's kind of like a sacrifice of intelligence and strength. You're not going to build extreme muscle, but then on the other end, you are in a society and you're embracing yourself in a society, which you could then end up maybe going into in a larger sense, where you don't need big muscles, you don't have to smack each other around. You have a balanced sense of intellect and emotion and so on, and maybe that's better than I don't know. It's to each. Yes, it is raining. Nabi Sanyeo. Sanyeo? Thank you. Yeah, I don't know about that, Mish. We'll, I guess, see what happens. No, yeah, we'll see what happens, all as a test. Don't look down, if you will. It's a rabbit hole. And that's not even a good thing to say in response to anything like that, so I can't really say anything. Hi, Mike. Huh. Good to see you too. Have to go back. Yeah, dimension structures of measurement, you have a mathematical version, and then you have this kind of a perceptual range limitation, local environment, simulated reality version. They both the information interlocks, and then literally the way the information makes sense is that there are specific interfaces for our genetics and our mind that equate to different range limitations of a conceptual perception system, and then certain beings naturally, like humans are some of them, but we've had technological biotech upgrades that enable it and accelerate it. They just dream this like fantasy-based virtual reality simulation of a conceptual environment that they interact in, and we call that an emotive social reality construct. You did something wrong, now everybody looks at you this way, when in reality it's all in everybody's heads. Doesn't mean it's not really real. It means we've developed this system now for like checking and passing and grading one another that doesn't exist. It's entirely organic in our minds. Everything does that, and if we get our ground level stabilized, we can stabilize that, and then that becomes like its own internet, and then we can connect interfacing through ancient internets that species have developed thousands and I guess millions of years ago or whatever. Apparently that's the reason for all of this, that it's just one big lensing telecommunication soul transfer system, and that's all. Like when you get to the highest and the top, like what are we doing here? Well, they just climbed up too, and what are they doing? Well, they're jumping over to the other one and climbing down. What? And then it's just a traveling information system, and by doing that you see exactly what you see in this world exponentially times, because now you're cross-referencing too, and then it goes on and on and on until you have 9 dimensions of 9 worlds, just like a fractal dodecahedral um, radial matrix, like those 10-dimensional like nets they've been making. They're supposed to be like the meaning of the universe, the shape of the universe, and we have that as our view of reality. Um, they would be subsectioned into dimensions and ranges and so on. Very interesting. But yeah, I think, I don't know, we repeat ourselves. Maybe timelines converge. Things that have like similarity and weight in time and perception coalesce, consolidate into a singular version that fits into its own singular timeline, where everything fits into one continuum, although it's not necessarily a continuum in the sense that we would think linearly. But in that sense, if we get to a point where we can't maybe go forward, or we just don't quite get it, if the ball continues to roll, it might be like you have to get it and then you get in the center and now you can see everything. And if you don't get it, you just end up spinning back on the outside again, and it might seem like everything is just one yo-yo that goes and then repeats itself. Maybe once you get to the center and stabilize, something happens and you can go to another location or something like that, or you can see everything. I'm not sure. Let's just do our part up here, and I guess, what was it? State our lack of consent. No, I don't want any. Okay, I'll bring you some right away. No, I said no. We have to. We all the time we go, what do the people want? Not that. And they go, what are we gonna give you? That. Yeah. And then everybody's like, oh well, okay, yeah, we want that. No, we don't. We have to stand up for what we don't want, and then by stating our lack of consent, and then demand the truth. If we do that, it's it's like a legal process where they have to go then do all the paperwork, and they have to. They're not gonna dump the truth, because that would be a weapon, but they're gonna have to pull back the BS curtain of sprinkling whatever on people's foreheads so they don't know what's going on ever. It would have to stop. It's just how it works. But the other aspect of that is, well, why do we need to do that? I don't want to do that. I don't want you to just free us. And then, if we can't build up enough sentience to say, hey, don't do that, I would rather not you do that and me do this, and we can't say that simple thing, and it's life and death, what does that mean about us? Like, what did we become if we can't even do what's necessary in that sentence? So then they're playing off of that. And I'm not here to talk about they, them, this, that, whatever, but if we're acting like animals, and if we're allowing ourselves to be treated like animals, that counts as a form of consent. And that's one of the main things. Okay, we can talk about all we want, holographic healing, but if we still run around in the streets like hooligans, we're not in control. But then, how is that going to be solved? We're not going to. It has to be not necessarily a loophole, but the ability to self-contain and control is going to overgrow the ability to freak out, and the tendency to freak out and all that. And that's a weird turning point, when the triggers are just, they start bouncing off, and it's just like, I don't have any energy or time for that. Like, what is really going on when people really stop games, stop showing out in the streets of some guy who's showing out because they're billionaires, and wait, what are we doing here? Once that happens, and then that's our part. Stop their global takeover of human DNA. There are some theories, and I was exposed to some information that DNA is a biotech system invented for a project in humanity, which we would call a sub species, like a sub society. Not a same species, it's just a different society, and that's what this time is. The takeaway there is our emotions program DNA in our mind, and so if somebody's programming your emotions, they're programming your DNA. If somebody's injecting thoughts and ideas through media into your social sphere, and now we're all connected through a social sphere, a media circle, they're capable of controlling your DNA. It's just how it works. DNA is a mode of light transference capacity. So whatever you're feeling is connecting to different potential changes that exist in higher space, and you're either locking yourself out or building up more and more and more, and kind of generating more potential. And again, it all comes back to this weirdness that, they're people are purposely being held back so that it's like a rubber band and we shoot forward into the future with all the power of self-awareness and motivation and inspiration. But now's the part for that. Bad news is that's what's happening. Good news is now it's the time for inspiration. But bad news is that's been the past few thousand years. Um, with every new tool of inspection into this experience, a new level of dimensionality is achieved. Correct, and that's bordering on the perceptual abstract line, because ultimately, if it's mathematical, there should be a set number of dimensions. Literally, a huge crystal palace that has mathematical proportions of eternity wrapped through infinity, presented in virtual infinity, stabilized in the ways it can change, but always ever changing and never the same thing. But in the sense that it has a number and a name and a shape and a groove and a symbol and a soul signature that if you know it, you can navigate it. Very good. My sky is 5D. Yeah, I remember you talking about that now. And I've been doing a little bit of that, but to I don't like to film anything. But the clouds seemed. I did a talk on that a little bit ago. Gathering molecules. Did one half on the YouTube channel, others on the Patreon, which I'll probably just make it all on the YouTube. But basically cloud computing, clouds, biology, physics, like dielectric universe theory, all combined to create a quantum supercomputer system that basically free associates your thoughts to potential streams of intellect, which abstractly like bleed or leak a residue off that kind of like accumulates as some type of transdimensional shift in space and time that influences the water molecules in the clouds, that creates connections of projections within and out there, like some type of intellect system, biotech intelligence sharing system. So I was talking about that a little bit and experiencing some of that. But yeah, I do remember you speaking about that, and that was a while ago, and that was stuff not a lot of people talk about or think about, but they've heard before, like, oh, look at that, and this and the other. Well, what if it was, I don't know, what if you could use it to navigate something or read, or what else could it be used for? And then once you get to those ideas, look around you, and that's what's been used for. Good morning, or maybe good not morning, like Gary says. Kamaz. 1. I think this society represented a large number of children being taken, and as a result, a large number of children being rescued. But that doesn't really say anything. Thank you, Free Press. Earthquakes in Nevada. Earthquakes all over. Not really sure. Always, there you go. I could say something about the second part, but we'll reserve that. More will come out, and more people will be pushed to make a choice, and that's all that's necessary. Wow, chat reloaded. Oh my gosh. Sorry, this is crazy. I hate when the chat does this. Sorry, I gotta scroll back up and find where this is. Okay, I think I found it. Got a few more. Mop up mode. I'd agree, we've been here before. Past, present, future happens at once, so what shape is that? And what pattern? And how does that then abstract out into these dissected, compartmentalized, streamed moments of individual perception, individual experience? That's a complicated system, but it's also very simple. It's something that never changes, stays still, but always moves. could be a golden age. It's kind of more abstract as well. I'm not really gonna say there's a golden age, and then there's gonna be a golden age. It does seem that we're leading towards that. And it does seem like it's a weird perceptual split. Some people are like, this is the worst. Some people are like, oh, finally, we're free mentally. We can know what's been going on, and that's all that matters, because everything else will follow. If there is, it's obviously going to get rough before it gets better. Um, Basically, some would say this is the golden age. Um, Not really, but also in the sense, this could be the past few thousand years could have been the apocalypse, the end times, and so the golden age might not look like what you call the golden age, but and maybe not at first, and then by the time we're in the golden age, you'd go around and be like, can you imagine? You can heal in there, and then they do that, and this floats on its own, and they're just like, we've had that for 200 years. What are you talking about? That's the golden age. And maybe the point is to not have a big break. Maybe it's to build it up and have a big turnover where everybody wakes up and realizes, oh, this is the golden age. Maybe if we do that, it sends us back into a dark age later because we have something to kind of complain about. Maybe that's the point. It just happens without anybody ever knowing it. We're just on the spiral to infinity. Hmm. Interesting. Uh, Interesting. Make love to plants, gourds bound with string green grown to size the first. Some of these comments. Spigerics of chemical-based earth medicine, aphrodisiac, Marianoia. I'm sorry. Below ground, their technology was billions years ahead, 13,000 years ahead, something like that. Is our timeline here 1377 for the Jewish 5777? Could be. Kind of time reset for various systems, time watchers. Um, yeah, that could be what this is all about, and it's all just being kind of low key. That this is a reset, and how do you manage a reset without letting people know? You kind of shuffle the same people that were going to be there after, before, and mix up before and after, so that they can't really tell when. Could be, but then again, don't really know. Not really behind the curtain, I guess. Timeline's counting down, not up. To a convergence, right? Time goes to zero, not out. Yep, food INC is pretty, when it's done that way, it's not very good. Funny, targeted individual. It's interesting. Somebody is. So Lindica 2020 is the Son of False One, a sun simulator. How that affects humans and hybrids. Talked about it many years ago. Mind virus. The mind virus, same as coronavirus. Other synthetic virus. Could be. Next. Could be. What I think with that is that the mind virus, everything that's gone wrong or being presented as something we need to know about, is a double for the mind virus. And if you follow certain lines of thought, people are finally now becoming aware of this. Never before in history. However that's happening, it's happening. Um, and it's an old virus. Basically, it's been around for a while. It affects people's minds. It runs through media. It kind of uses imagery and perception, and storytelling to kind of trick the mind, deceive the mind, hypnotize. And pretty much everybody's worshiping it in a way, and no one knows exactly how it works. And so the things that are happening now to kind of unveil that. Um, if the sun is the same sun, it seems there's a lensing effect with the clouds. If not, it seems there's more than one, maybe two or three that are being switched in and out. If not, there's definite lensing with particulate lensing technology suspended in the clouds, aerosol, and you get one planet's light range on certain hours and another planet's light range another day or hours. Um, and somehow it has the capacity of being the normal sun. Starting a couple years ago, started to come back for me at least, and some days passing into the other one, maybe some type of uh, lensing technology kind of covering in between. How it affects humans: high UVB radiation. There are peak times of 15 minutes to like 40 minutes to an hour where there's such high UVB radiation that your skin burns after like 5-10 minutes in the sun. Don't go in the sun in those hours. Um, no being has gotten out of this, but what if we're all about to? Right, the higher the consciousness, the higher you can see because you're actually going up in a dimensional ladder. But it's not a ladder, it's a hill. Ladders are for something else. Mind FCUK 101. Yeah, they were involved, so that those groups, um, the first and the last, were involved in the programs and certain aspects of maintaining information. What that information is its own body. It's like a wrap up of all the other information. It's literally the current view, or at least from then, of the universe, of space and time, which looks like something out of Duke Nukem. Um, just Holland mirrors made by entities that trap human souls. Um, More or less. I'll just leave it at that because that's basically. And then that was a system designed to, in a way, not harbor, but to contain the human minds that could comprehend this and then assist in utilizing uh, for the mental liberation of humanity. Which, again, none of that is just like, oh, we're doing this today? Hooray! No. But, and so, kind of dark. But, that's my awareness of that, and they were involved. Um, Nothing that I talk about it I read on the internet. We were there. Do you want to know how the gauntlet is? The human souls inside the machines, and so that's that. And then yeah. So connect your. Thank you, Mind F. Free Press 666. Connect your left brain to your right brain as one flesh, then heart to mind. There's the Trinity. Like an E8 lattice, similar. That was what I was trying to think. Most high is the highest point of consciousness. It's literally a point of in all things central around it. That's it, and it's everything, and all intelligence. Ley lines were shut down. Supposedly, those things were used as things, energy draining, kind of pleasure drinking facility, nodal point insertion points, and they would go all there and do their things. And those part of this system being changed had to be that shutting down. That you can't go to these nodal points and have these little parties where people get messed up. And things are done that then inject into the rest of the population. Yeah, raising your ability of perception, achieved a variety of ways, but ultimately it's raising your ability of perception. You just stare at a wall, and every time you look down and forget what you're doing, you stare back up and do it 1,050 times, you'll have an experience. Mind F, they were attempting to create blank slate technology, a type of interactive remote viewing technology. That happened. Yeah. Again, dark. Apparently, so there's tech that could wipe the mind. Tech that could view and transfer consciousness. That got into the bad hands, wrong hands. For thousands of years, people were using that to manipulate and basically steal and kidnap and enslave humans through their souls. pyramids were collecting all ley line power till overload, they may have blown apart instead of been uh, vandalized. They may have literally exploded. Um, Anything that compresses the natural piezoelectric device, aka the pineal. Okay, I think he was saying most beings are NPCs. Consent equals disempowerment. I think this is about to reload the chat again. Breakaway. Okay, let's see. Been a few minutes on here. We can always control it. It's like an artificial auxiliary system. All of us in a circle, and then a bug trying to run around and jump in everybody's brains. Kind of, it can control one person. 2 people, it can disarm. 3 people, it can delay. Any more than that, we can overpower it. And really, one person can overpower it, but when you don't know what it is, and it's like something, manipulating stuff, it's kind of weird. But all of us watching each other going, what's wrong with them? And then like it's trying to control them. It can't control us all at the same time. It's too complicated. There are too many unpredictable things that could happen. 2 people are unpredictable. A crowd of people, but they have to be heart-centered. You can control the mind. The mind is easy. The mind is fearful. It's like an animal. It just wants certain things. At least in terms of the lower brain, put it that way. And as well, the heart, in the sense of what we feel or think we feel, that can be diluted. That can be kind of used as a tool against us. And so we have to, I guess, be balanced in that sense. But ultimately, it's almost like a balloon or something. Because the consciousness is like a shell of energy, and so it squeezes on one side, attempting to collapse it or control it into kind of mechanized linear system, like a binary implant or basically a chip, and the other side inflates to make up for the lost processing power, kind of like the brain. And again, there's obviously a limitation to that, but the limitation means then that person's asleep now or insane. It doesn't mean now they're completely assimilated and taken over and they're going to go right as rain with whatever this thing wants. No, it's going to have to dangle some stuff in front of them on a stick in order to get that to happen. And oftentimes, it was people doing it to other people for the thing. It's not intelligent enough to do that. It's like a parasite. They have to dangle in front of somebody's eyes or ears and put it in their throat or something and get it where it can't get there itself. It can take over once some people do that. And so, in the sense, we're stronger than it, and ultimately, once we realize how to identify it, and once we realize how our identifying of our perception of our awareness of it, it throws a wrench in its gears. It basically just begins to disable part of its own ability to mobilize and identify targets for itself. Then we realize it's easy. The older human society that's closer to time and therefore younger but has been through this probably looks at it like a bedtime story or something, that you just don't run away from it and it doesn't grow up into this huge egregore. And in that sense, because we feed it, it's seemingly more powerful than us. It's kind of like a dog or something. We're all running around, running away from this dog, and dogs can be dangerous. But if 3 dudes picked it up 3 different directions, it's not going to do anything. It just sits there like, okay, now I'm doing this. That would be the massive soul-sucking AI. But so we have to get fear out, and so now we're going through all this fear training. Seem to be getting where we're going. Maybe not getting out, just getting where we're supposed to be going. Okay, chat reloaded. Let's see if I can do a few more before having to go get ready. Organite useful. We were told Organite is useful. That it disrupts something. The dead orgone. all that goes back to that guy William something that made the atmospheric control systems that would produce frequencies that were either orgone or dead orgone and would influence the clouds to either become sunny days or storm clouds. Apparently, that's true, repeatable, and so on, and that's why we feel different levels of energy in a storm or a sunny day. And apparently, if we can create orgone, positive orgone, living orgone, it heals the environment and produces good energy, if you will, for us, or simply the kicker was that it supposedly disrupts the um, frequencies that are ebbing out that are from electronics, the EMF pollution, that it simply pushes a wave at an angle to those frequencies and kind of meshes them so they become jammed, and it just simply stops some things from interacting with the cells in the body and hurting it. I don't know if that's true. That's just how that. Okay, lots of explosions. Earth is home. We can't take it back home. Earthquakes, underground explosions. Could be. It's about to be. Have not read in a while, but sometimes listen to them. Um, haven't read those writers. A lot of the big guys, I don't really find their word format interesting or something. Well, he said we are brains in a vat because the skull itself is an isolation system. You're compartmentalized. You could be inside of a hole in the ground that has avatar-like veins from a tree going into your cortical areas, um, or two of them, and anything that could be perceived in that system conceptually could then double as the skull. You could, in one version of that reality, you could be walking around a brain in a skull. Another version, you could be a brain just floating around. Another version, you could be in a brain in a jar. Another version, you could be an animal or something. It's the fact that it's the same format. Now, is that truly what's happening? Yes and no, because it's not just a jar. A jar, a scientist can go get a jar and put it in a room. That exists. Brains can be in jars. Whoever made your body didn't make a jar. It's streams of light and consciousness interwoven into a fractal delay system that vibrates matter into different ranges and formats that create the perception of material, solid reality. It's a living jar, and so that's the point, in my mind, that it is a brain in a vat, and that joins a time machine. That's the whole point. All the agendas that you can see, and it's like this or that is going to happen, or whatever. Those are the books. They happen in books and movies, but that's why they'd never happen here. You have to go hit your head and go into the rabbit hole, and then you find the talking guy. If they didn't have, the question is, if they didn't have books and movies, and you were experiencing it through that, how do you know something greater wouldn't force itself out of somebody's subconscious and end up happening over here? An act of war, genetic manipulation, or maybe some person that transformed themselves or something because there was no outlet for that spiritually. Wouldn't that be weird? If earlier times we didn't have media and every so often somebody would jump a dimensional gateway and invade a town or something crazy would happen, and then now that we have it in our dreams, more so we have it in our waking consciousness when we look at media like a dream box, that we can control it and contain it, kind of like strumming keys on different sides of a guitar in order to get the middle keys to vibrate. And our perception is the middle key, our real perception, and the outside keys are the potential perceptions that we're being interfaced with through the media. And they're anyway. Brains in jars. The agendas in play have at the same time become the catalyst for an awakening where either one sinks deeper or one begins to float. That's always been it. Paeso, that's always been it. And it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, we can't allow this. We have to not move forward and bury. There's nothing you can do. We just have to move forward, and it's in a way we feel like we don't have the somebody's taking our rights. Well, they can't do this. Now we're forced to move on, and all these challenges and catalysts, and they're not doing it themselves. They're free from it. The only solution is, okay, how do we get better and figure out how to be even smarter? Because we're gonna figure this one out, then they're gonna throw something else at us. So we got to get smarter. In terms of that, the agendas are now the stepping stones to reality. It's kind of like saying the Hall of Mirrors is the exit path. But again, it was always that way. It's just got to a point now where people can't ignore it. No one is exempt from that anymore. Uh, if we try to, somebody else is going to pass us, and that's like how it's pretty much working. Um, Dark Age is Golden Age. Everything has been inverted. GMW. There's a concept there with that. Funny. Thank you, Michael Indigo Soul. Maybe it'll be time to do more. We're in a time of delicate information, and so only a little bit is kind of coming from everywhere and anywhere, and specific information is coming from specific areas, which is very useful. Seasons or time or light in the sky in Golden Age. Apparently, so that might be a wavelength that's up there that's happening right now, and maybe it's occurring at 1,000 hertz per second, maybe 10,000, or maybe like one, and it's like super slow motion, and we could never even see it. We'd go up there and just be in somebody's nostril, but in that sense, there's not supposed to be time. There's not supposed to be night and day. It's supposed to be just day and peace. So we've heard these things before, but it's a scientific matter of physics. It seems abstract, but there's a temporal energetic horizon, and something in our awareness has the capacity to navigate there, and time more or less is in the center of the merry-go-round there. It's at the top of the pinnacle, and so you don't age, but in that sense, it's different for those reasons, um, and it's more so not a fairy tale or kind of like a concept. It's an actual way the universe works, but we don't understand kind of quantum slippage. No virus, but mind control could be. Is there a giant octopus? There's plasma entities that are running out of energy. Interesting, interesting. Okay, so I might be getting ready to, yeah, to get ready here. Consciousness is the ultimate mind virus, maybe unregulated consciousness. And I don't mean that somebody has to mass regulate, but I mean we're not regulating our own consciousness. We're not rerouting things through kind of conceptual firewall system or a psychic, whatever. We're just kind of like flopping around. That's dangerous, especially if these weaponized systems come out, or these beings who can like tell you what to do, and then you have no ability to resist it within your will unless you've been through some type of gauntlet, or kind of dangerous. Well, the trails, Buddha girl, might be not what people think, and in a way, it might be temporary. Like they last for a few hours and then float and go away. Now the metals and so on, I don't know. Maybe that's kind of a loss, expected loss, accepted loss. Um, but yeah, maybe all the things that are like being used to damage everything, if everything stopped, would go away in like 6 weeks, and the Earth would pretty much start to look normal. Um, I don't know, but yeah, whatever's being done, it's being done in a highly intelligent manner, because unless you follow it, you wouldn't know. And at this point, I'm pretty sure none of the we wouldn't have to know unless it was supposed to be known that everything could be invisible, everything could be done completely out of perceptual range. But then, man, we probably get perceptual glitches at that point, which might be worse than simply knowing everything's being manipulated. Um, yep, detox. Could be. Mish Gleason says, I think there's a celestial system that's come close now that's causing Earth changes and decreased oxygen in the atmosphere. We're in a comet debris field, maybe. Could be. And as well, maybe everybody's wearing masks so that they don't know there's decreased oxygen. Anyway, um, apparently the human souls existed at the beginning. However, humans themselves might not have been here. There's the stories that were told, Thomas Fannin, they go in a variety of ways to the point of being inverted in that correct like females were the first and they were capable of cloning and so on to the point of that being the first story and then the second story still being real but just another story and that somebody came along and manipulated DNA to make males and this that and the other and all this weird stuff. Apparently a few 100 million on the planet, if that. Prana power is being increased. Some type of limiters are being removed. We get more access. The goal is supposed to be to increase intelligence for everyone all around. Got a few more minutes. So targeted individual SSRI says, research the details of the Mayan mind calendar. 13 Bactune is south this portal year, and fiery vortex spatial fixation on cash, money, economy, blah blah blah, gets you fried. Like maybe that's going to be burned out in the human psyche. I mean, honestly, repeating cycles, continuous, like it's like a treatment people are getting to continue to want these things, to continue to line up and get these things, and then to continue to have it drop through. Maybe does it enough, or on one of the final cycles, amps it up to the max to the point where it's never going to happen again because there's no point. Um, Maybe that's the goal. Maybe in that way, that's the destruction aspect of that system. Instead of cycling up, we keep doing these crappy steps, and now they have to destroy themselves. And at the end of those cycles, 8,000 years later, or what are we going to do? Are we going to do this forever now and balance everything out and do it for eternity? No, it's just going to crumble because they've been doing trash this whole time. And so, but in that sense, it's like it either goes cycle, then really fast and goes on to infinity, or cycle really fast and blows apart. And those industries, or at least that mindset of chasing material, seems to be blowing apart. Maybe Beth M says, maybe the body vessel you are in is a tool for your unfoldment, and your ego mind helps to offer delimiters so you don't crash the simulation. What happened to Bruce Almighty when he said yes to all? Pretty much exactly. Just how it works. You'll get used to it. If you didn't have some type of box, your head would explode. Maybe you can think outside the box, but don't break it, because then there's nowhere to go back to. Dreamochrome was being drained from children through the eye. What do you know about the pyramids? All of those sites are connected. They're basically the first underground bases, and all the things that were going there were happening similarly, and more or less, primarily just advanced technology that can interface with the mind and initiate changes in those cycles on the planet. Like you're time switching down in a system that changes the time scale for the traffic lights, the whole planet and the consciousness system through that by interfacing with these energetic points, depending on who's going to be doing it and how it's going to be done. So you got all these people lined up, dressed all fancy, getting ready to do their halftime show, and they go out into the specific sacred sites and pour their energy into it. Yes, Mish. The world comes into existence through those tiny portals, like flower petal veins, if you will. Okay, I'm going to. I guess I gotta go get ready. Pretty good questions. Little disoriented. Maybe get a Theodore Daniel. Maybe get a some topic lists or something to help redirect myself as well. Thank you everybody for coming out or to your computer or phone. um, is another interesting good one. I'll try to be more reasonable, focused. Um, I'm not really delving into current events and so on. You've already been talking about it enough. You already know. Basically, just managing and walking carefully down the path that we're on, without running, without trying to go backwards. Thank you all. I will do this again soon. Enjoy.